3 and Enyam and Charta Catherine Connolly.
Minister, it's a very specific question. What steps have been taken, are being taken or will be taken to improve the administration and to extend the scope of the Cara Nua fund in view of the comments, and may I say most unacceptable comments by the CEO of Cara Nua and by the very hurtful and damaging experiences of many of the survivors with that board, as reported extensively in various print media and the radio?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think some of those comments were unfortunate and could be open to misunderstanding. However, on the substance of your question, Cara Nua is an independent statutory body established under the Residential Institutions Fund to oversee the use of cash contributions of up to 110 million pledged by religious congregations to support the need of survivors of institutional abuse. The legislation provides that supports may be available in the areas of health and personal social services, mental health services, education and housing. It is a matter for Cara Nua itself to determine the range of approved services it will support and the criteria by reference to which decisions may be made in respect of applications. Following its establishment, Cara Nua determined the approved services to be provided by it and determined the application criteria. I understand that in 2016 Cara Nua expanded the approved services it provides and amended its criteria to include a range of additional housing and health-related supports. I have no relation to Cara Nua's day-to-day activities or matters such as the determination of criteria. I am aware there have been concerns raised regarding Cara Nua in the media and elsewhere. I have met with survivors and I appreciate their concerns. It is vital that in all our dealings with victims of abuse they are dealt with in a sensitive, fair and compassionate manner. I believe that Cara Nua has tried to put in place a process that is responsive to the needs of applicants. It has acknowledged the difficulties it has faced, especially in the early period when it first began to accept applications. It is required to meet the obligations set out in the 2012 Act and to be accountable. In that regard, it should be noted that Cara Nua will be appearing before the Dáil Public Accounts Committee next week. Cara Nua's aim is to provide a responsive, friendly and professional service, and it has been informed by me that it takes all complaints seriously. It has a customer service charter, feedback and a complaints policy. There is an independent appeals mechanism, and Cara Nua's administrative actions are subject to review by the Ombudsman. It is my intention to carry out a review of eligibility for services provided by Cara Nua, and in that regard draft terms of references were recently published. A number of submissions were received and these are being considered. It is hoped to finalise the terms of reference shortly and proceed to the review in the near future. Any change in the eligibility requirement would require legislation. I will be meeting the new board of Cara Nua when it is appointed, and I will be impressing on it the needs to ensure that it continues to be responsive to the needs of applicants.
So thank you for the clarification. But I think if you can stand over a CEO on over 80,000, 87,000 making comments such as the following: some applicants will never be happy and grievances suit a narrative. It suits a narrative of the big bad state and the big bad religious congregations and so on. We have to face the fact that the damage has been done to these people. This is the words used by the CEO, is so deep that it doesn't matter what anybody does. Now, I won't actually insult the survivors by continuing to finish the quote, because it's simply appalling. Now, I'm asking you, and thank you for clarifying that there's a review under the way in relation to the eligibility. Can you tell me when it started, when it will be complete? And can you look, and the increase in appeals since last year is 110%. That in itself speaks volumes about the unease that survivors have with the way they're being treated.
Minister, 1 minute.
Yeah, as you know, we recently in the House here discussed Cara Nua, and Deputy Daly put forward a bill which was supported at second stage with a time delay, which gives us an opportunity to conduct this review. So it is being done according to a tight time frame. Obviously, I want to make sure that we hear submissions into the terms of reference of the review. As I acknowledge, I think the comments and their reporting of them were unfortunate and certainly could be open to misinterpretation. But I also recognise that Cara Nua has had a difficult job to do, and in its initial phase it had a number of logistical difficulties, and I think that genuinely gave rise to frustration by many people. I know that some of its administrative requirements can be irksome on people who are applying, and that is an area where, to be fair to Cara Nua, they have made improvements in the processes last year, but clearly the review needs to look afresh whether we can do further to improve those processes and make them user-friendly, while at the same time, the Deputy will understand, making sure that the Cara Nua can fulfil its obligations to the House to show that the monies it has spent has been incurred with the criteria set out in the legislation. So this is an important piece of work, and I regard it as something that should be completed quickly, because I know from other speakers in the House it is regarded as a priority.
That the name is singularly inappropriate, Cara Nua, a new friend. It's a misuse of the Irish language, because the experiences of all these survivors is not that they have met a friend. They have met with delay, obfuscation, the phone not being answered, absolutely no consistency in terms of what survivors get. Sometimes they get a washing machine, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they get a bed which is suited to their needs and a little bit bigger than the normal bed, but they don't get the blankets to cover it. That is the level of miserliness with which the scheme has been administered. It gives me no pleasure to repeat that here. I'm terribly familiar with the Redress Board from a previous life, and to have those survivors, having gone through the Redress Board, to have to go through the miserliness of this system with total inconsistency and with appeals at 110% speaks volumes. At the very least, the CEO on that enormous salary should be asked to apologise, at the very least.
Final response from the Minister.
I acknowledge, and I've met with survivors myself, and if they've expressed these very concerns, and these are the ones that will be subject to the review. Of course, there is a customer service charter, there is a feedback and complaints policy, there is an appeal mechanism, and there is recourse to the Ombudsman. So there are mechanisms in place to try and deal with these inconsistencies. But part of the review will be to look at what those are, if you like, standard good practice in any organisation. Why are they not working in this particular circumstance, those elements of support? And that's why I think it is timely to have a review and make sure that we deliver the best possible we can, because I'm absolutely conscious that, having indeed reread some of the Ryan report reviews recently of the way in which the state let down these individuals so badly in the past, we have an obligation to make sure that we support them now in a fair and equitable way. And at the same time, of course, I realise that Cara Nua will be before the Ombudsman, or before the PAC, and has to be able to account for the way it spends its money. So there is a balance here that has to be struck. But I take the Deputy's points, and I think they will be factored into the review.